Hey, y'all, welcome back to Right at the Wire. Well, I hope you all had a safe and happy holiday season, and I wish you the happiest New Year's for 2024. Let's start the new year off right with a pick five at Gulfstream that includes three stakes races for 3-year-olds, including the Dania Beach, which looks to be a really good one on turf. So let's dive into it. So this is the late pick five at Gulfstream on Saturday's card, and it comprises races 7 through 11. And we've got three stakes races in this one. The first leg is the seventh race. It's an optional claimer, N1X non-winners of two lifetime. And it's running a mile and a 16th on the turf for 4-year-olds and up. And this is a little bit of a tricky race, I think. Fredo would probably be considered a competitor in this race, but I think he's really compromised by all the speed to his inside and being out in the 11 hole. He's kind of marooned. So I think it's going to be awful difficult for him to get to where he wants to. Probably going to have to use up a lot of energy. So I don't want any part of him. Roos has a speed and a class edge, and he's back on his preferred surface. Ran on synthetic last time and thought he ran a decent race, but it's awful hard, as we know, to win on the front end on synthetic. Back on turf with the inside post, I think he'll be able to get to the lead. He's going to have some challengers, and he does tend to give it up, so it's not cast in stone, but I think he's a good bet in here. From the pace pressers, I think American Diamond probably makes the most sense of all of them. He is he came off of a decent effort in his last race, and Safi Joseph, when he reaches out for Tyler Gaffleone, he's had two of the three wins with American Diamond, so I think he's looking pretty good here. Blame the Good Times. His last race I thought was sneaky good. He broke well and he was up near the leaders, and then he was taken back but re-rallied, and he had a really good kick coming into the finish, and I think he's sneaky good in this spot, and I think you're probably going to get an overlay. So if and again, we're using my odds. I don't have the morning line for this yet, being so early in the week. So keep in mind, these are the odds that I've made for this race, and that's signified by my on the top. And again, I'll mention, as I did before in one of my last postings, I would encourage you to make your own morning line. It's a really good way to determine value. So Blame the Good Times, to me, looks like a sneaky good one in here. Game Change has moved on to turf. They're trying to find a place for this one. He's a newly minted 4-year-old, and he is going against Older for the first time. But in his first effort on turf last time, I didn't think he ran a bad race. Was a little overmatched by Mondigo. Clever thought. It was a pretty good field. Jimmy Toner is taking over, and this is a very good angle for him. He's 33%, 2 out of 3, and 67% in the money with first time taking over on and putting a horse on turf. So Game Change, I think, has every right to move forward at 4 years old. So I think Game Change is one that makes some sense in here. McKillop is another one that has shown some good efforts in class. A lot of seconds. That's a little bit of a concern, and he is 0 for the distance. So there's a couple of things that are a little bit bothersome. But moving back onto turf, he was on dirt last time. We'll just draw a line through that. I think he's a good fit in here. Probably more likely to be under, but I think he's in decent form, and I expect a good race. Quality G, Todd Pletcher, Rod Ortiz, pretty obvious. Last race, he ran a pretty good second. Was on his left lead in the stretch, but he is a good class fit here, and I think he makes a lot of sense. He's pretty logical, although I think nobody you can really hang your hat on this race as a real solid win candidate. They've all got some hair on them. Roos probably makes the most sense, but I like Blame the Good Times as kind of a sneaky horse in here, but I think you definitely have to spread. Leg 2 is the 8th race. It's an optional claimer at 16,000, run at a mile and a 16th on the all-weather track for 3-year-olds. And many of these participated in a race prior, so we probably can use that as the key, mainly because the race level is rated higher than the new shooters, any of them coming into this. Reese's Rolex was able to get on the lead and set very soft fractions, and then showed some grit, had enough left to hold off Tapit 3 times. It was very keen. They dueled in the stretch. So you'd have to think Reese's Rolex, this would be pretty much a repeat. Tapit 3 times, ran a solid race. No reason to believe that he can't build on that. And if he can, Reese's Rolex maybe get softened up a little bit, then Tapit 3 times perhaps has a better chance. There are some new shooters in here I think have a chance. In particular, Pirate Radio I think makes the most sense. In his last race coming off a layoff, he did set a career high and ran a really nice race, very professional, and he showed a lot of grit in the stretch. So building off of that, I think Pirate Radio makes a lot of sense in this spot. Painter's Prodigy and Papa Do are both getting Lasix for the first time, and it is in particular a favorable scenario for Brittany Russell. She wins at 30%. With a 5.48 ROI, adding Lasix for the first time. If you couple that with synthetic and roots, it isn't quite as strong, but you'd have to believe would be a very positive for a horse. I think that could be competitive in this race. I'd like to see a root under him before running in this race, but I think with that added angle, Painter's Prodigy has a chance. Same thing for Papa Do. I think is another one that Jorge Delgado's barn is going well right now. And it's not the most positive angle for him either. But I think this horse has shown enough ability that with the right conditions could factor in this race. So it looks like a repeat of the last race. Reese's Rolex and Tapit 3 times, I think, tower over this field. But Pirate Radio, I think, looks to me the one of the new shooters that has the best chance to take this one down. Leg 3 is the 9th race. It's the Ginger Brew Stakes. It's ungraded at $125,000, and it's run on the turf at a mile for 3-year-old fillies. And this is an interesting race. There's a couple of different ways to go here. I don't think it's cast in stone. There's a lot of horses who run very similarly speed-wise, so I think tactics and the trip are what are going to make the difference here. Narrowing down the field, Time to Dazzle to me is very intriguing. This one has shown good form on the turf in the past, and the last race coming off the bench on synthetic ran a really solid race on the front end. The concern I have is there are a couple others here I think want to do the same thing, and this one has to have the lead. They list this one as EP, but this is an E. This horse tends to be a little keen on the front end, and that's kind of the concern. But in the Jessamine, I think it cost her a little bit, but I don't think that this field is quite as competitive. And if can get a clean trip on the lead, I think this one has a very good shot at wiring. The last race, I think, showed some progression, and this one getting back on turf, a preferred surface, might be pretty dangerous on the front end. The other front runners in the race, San Pantaleo and Independence Avenue. San Pantaleo is coming off a 5.5 furlong maiden score on the front end, and Independence Avenue just ran against a field of 4. So kind of hard to evaluate from that perspective. Mojave Desert, we'll have to see if she gets in. But I think there's a very good possibility that Time to Dazzle could be up on the lead and has a really, at a mile distance, I think has a really good shot to take them all the way. And hopefully, again, these are my odds. This is not the morning line because I don't have it yet. But I think 6-1 is a fair price on this one. If we can get anything better, I think that we ought to jump on it. Ozara is a very logical choice in here. Has progressed, gotten better with every single race. Just wanted to wait a while and did so in pretty impressive fashion. Trained by Christophe Clement. No reason to doubt. We'll have to get the trip, of course, but I think it's entirely possible. Wiskesu is trained by Bill Mott, and this one is what you love to see in a 3-year-old. Came off the bench last time to win the maiden on turf with a career high speed number. And that's exactly the kind of progression you want to see at 3. Coming in second off the layoff, you never want to overlook Bill Mott on a stakes day. And I think this one fits the bill, and we ought to consider. Life's an Audible is one that has shown some ability for sure. On the 2-year-old campaign, did pretty well, and finishing second to Hard to Justify, who went on to win the Juvenile Phillies turf. Certainly no slouch. I just wonder about this one's top end, that acceleration late. I don't know. It's just a little nagging feeling I have, but I could be completely off base. I think Life's an Audible is the second choice in here, should be, and checks all the boxes. Rapoli Stables, Pletcher, Irad, must include. 12 holes going to be a little tough to work out a trip, but I think Irad could certainly do it. And then we're going to throw in Yada, who's the lone closer in the race. Has been running out west, and of course, that's always a red flag. California horses going against Eastern. They didn't fare very well in the Breeders' Cup, but this is the lone closer and has shown some ability. I think underneath is probably more likely. But it's always good when closers are all alone in the back. It makes it easier for them to work out a trip. So I'm very intrigued with Time to Dazzle. I think is extremely interesting here. But Ozara and Wasescu Wiskesu, however you pronounce it, are dangerous. And of course, Life is Audible. Life's an Audible as well. Fourth leg is the 10th race. It's the Limehouse Stakes. It's ungraded at $100,000 for 6 furlongs and 3-year-olds. And this is an interesting one to say the least. Basically, there's only 2 choices in my opinion, really, and it's one of the 2 European imports from AMO Racing. They're Cuban Thunder or Valiant Force. And Cuban Thunder last time had a pretty good second in a synthetic 2-turn race. The only issue was really couldn't finish the deal and got caught at the wire. But this is moving back to a sprint, and we'll have to assume that having run in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, that dirt will be okay, and you're getting some major league class relief here. So I think Cuban Thunder probably is a pretty good fit. There's not a lot of early pace in this race, so I'm not terribly worried about anybody wiring this field. But Cuban Thunder going route to sprint might very well be able to do that. Valiant Force, we all remember from the Breeders' Cup Juvenile turf sprint, just flying down the stretch. And if this was on turf, we'd know who to bet. But it's not. It's on dirt. However, the work tab shows some really snappy works on dirt for the last couple, and Jorge Delgado is training both Cuban Thunder and Valiant Force, and these are good angles for him, and I'll have to believe Valiant Force will be fine on dirt. The one thing I would say is they seem to think that 5 furlongs was a better fit for Valiant Force going into the Breeders' Cup. And if you look back at the past performances, you'll see the couple efforts moving up to 6 furlongs weren't as effective. So that is a little something to think about here. To be honest, though, it's awful hard to find any type of overlay in here that maybe could upset one of these 2. It's a tough race in that regard. If you had to look at the other discards, I mean, Steeler Mischief in particular looks kind of hard to ride. Just watching his last race, he was rank, difficult to get around the turn, it looked like. So Irad Ortiz has got his hands full with this one. Of course, he is Irad Ortiz, and maybe he can get it done. Ship to Shore has been keeping some very good company, but hasn't fared well against them. and speed figure wise doesn't match up to the top two in here. So really that's the determinant for me is the speed figures of Cuban Thunder and Valiant Force is just better than the group here. So I'm going to go with them. Once again, I'll keep in mind that this is my line. This is not the actual morning line because we don't have it yet. So this is just my conjecture on what it might be. But I think it's one of these two who's going to take this one down. Last leg of the late pick 5 is the 11th. It's the Dania Beach. It's an ungraded at 125,000, running a mile on the turf for 3-year-olds, and this is a good race. There's a lot of good horses in here. The Agate Road would be the favorite, and again, these are my odds, not the morning line because we don't have it yet, so you can compare later. He hasn't done anything wrong. He ran well in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, just ran into some classier Europeans. He's continued to progress. Pletcher, Rapoli, Erod Ortiz, need I say more? He is at a bit of a tactical disadvantage in that he does come from behind on a track that's traditionally speed favoring. So we do have to keep that in mind. He will have to work out a trip. He's going to have plenty of company coming late. Air Recruit to me is listed more of a presser. Early pace presser, but I think it's logical for him to try to get the lead here. He can do it. Did so in the juvenile turf, and he did keep on well. I think he's a solid horse. He looks like he's got some nice turn of foot, and I think he's going to have things his own way on the front end. So I think he can be dangerous at 6-1 or better. He offers a lot of good value. Then we have some mid-pack horses to closers. Reminder, I really like. His last race, he just finished behind Noted. He was flying late, showed a really big kick, and is poised to move forward, I think. And I think he's going to give Agate Road all he can handle coming late, and I think you're going to get a better price. Really like Reminder here. Palm Tree is trained by Brendan Walsh, and he's another one that's shown plenty of ability. He's had some traffic issues at times. And in his last race against Noted and Reminder, he got the lead. He got first jump on them. Wasn't able to hold them off, though. So I consider that to be a bit of a reservation. And I'm not quite sure that he's got the top end that the better horses, Agate Road and Reminder, do. But he's certainly going to be in the mix for sure. And I think he's a must-use. Depiction is trained by Cherie DeVoe, and this one's interesting. I thought his last race, he had a little bit of traffic, but when he was able to swing out, he did show some nice kick, and perhaps with a move forward here, he could be dangerous. And at 8-1, I think you're getting outstanding value if we get a price similar to that. So, to me, Air Recruit is going to be very tough to beat on the front end. In just by the nature of the configuration, I don't see really anybody else who's going to challenge him too much for the lead. So it's going to be catch me if you can. There's certainly candidates to do so. I like Reminder the best. I just think with a little bit of a break, he could definitely get the jump and may be able to upset the apple cart. But it's a fairly chalky affair with Agate Road, Reminder, Palm Tree, probably the big three of the late runners, and Depiction could surprise with a bit of a price. So here's what our ticket looks like, and this is not easy. There are a lot of ways to go here, but we have to be reasonable as far as our budget, and these are the selections that I like. I think in the leg 1, race 7, there's a lot of different ways to go. I don't think it's cast in stone, but we're going to settle on the 2, 5, and 10. Leg 2, race 8, 1, 3, and 7. Leg 3, race 9, we're going to have to spread again 4, 5, 6, and 12. And then leg 4, I think it's a 2-horse race. It's one of the Amo Racing horses, Cuban Thunder or Valiant Force. Probably lean a little bit to Valiant Force if I had to choose one, but I think you need to use both 2 and 4. And then leg 5, the Dania Beach, is a very good race. And I think there's a lot of ways to go, but we're going to settle on the 5, 6, and 10 as our most logical options. And we'll just hope we're right, because this one should pay. Particularly, there's a couple of races there, leg 3 and leg 1. I think there is value to be had in particular. So 3 by 3 by 4 by 2 by 3, that's $216. So it's a $108 ticket on a 50-cent base. So that's the late pick 5. It looks to be a pretty wild one. There's a lot of different ways to go. I'm really looking forward to seeing that Dania Beach Stakes. That looks to be a really good, deep field. So I hope our analysis helps you with your own wagering strategy, and I wish you the best of luck as always. And of course, if you do like content like this, please like and subscribe. And thanks to all of you who have come on board, and we're looking to grow the community, so don't be bashful. Go ahead and like and subscribe. That's it from here. I'll be talking to you soon. So until then, be well.